Right now, China is pulling more silver into its own market and tightening the door on what leaves the country. The question is, how much silver will still be available to the rest of the world? And here's why that matters. China isn't just another silver buyer. It's one of the world's biggest industrial consumers and a major force in the global silver supply chain. If more physical silver stays inside China while demand keeps rising, the pressure could eventually reach markets thousands of miles away. That creates a much bigger question for silver investors. Is China quietly changing where the world's available silver goes? And what happens to prices if that trend continues? Before we go any further, there's one number you need to understand, because it explains why this story is suddenly getting so much attention. China has gone from a major seller of silver to one of the most aggressive buyers on the planet, and it's tightening the door on the way out. If you own silver, if you're thinking about buying silver, or if you simply use a phone, drive a car, or live in a house with solar panels on the roof, what's happening inside China right now is about to reach you. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what China is doing, why it's happening at this exact moment, what it means for the price of silver in your own country, and why some analysts believe this could be one of the most important commodity stories of the decade. If you're interested in money, investing, gold, silver, and protecting your financial future, subscribe to Money Insights and like this video, because every week we break down the biggest financial stories in simple English. Before we go further, it helps to understand why silver behaves so differently from gold in the first place. Gold is mostly a store of value. People buy it, hold it, and rarely use it up. Silver is different. A large share of silver is consumed in industrial applications, where recovery and recycling can be difficult or uneconomic. Once silver is embedded into electronics, solar components, medical equipment, and other products, bringing every ounce back into the market isn't simple. That makes industrial demand fundamentally different from investment demand, because an investor can sell a silver bar tomorrow, while recovering silver from a manufactured product can take much more time and money, and that's exactly what started happening at the beginning of this year. On January 1st, 2026, China's Ministry of Commerce introduced a new licensing system for silver exports. Instead of allowing any qualified company to ship silver overseas, the government now limits that right to a small, approved list, reportedly around 44 companies, with strict requirements around production size and financial backing. On paper, this sounds like a bureaucratic detail. In practice, it acted like a valve being slowly closed on one of the world's largest sources of silver supply. To put the licensing system in plain terms, any company that wants to export silver out of China now has to prove it meets minimum production thresholds and has serious financial backing, reportedly including credit lines in the tens of millions of dollars. That effectively locks out smaller and mid-sized exporters, leaving only a short list of large, state-approved players with the ability to move silver across the border at all. It's a system built to slow the outflow, not stop it completely. But even a partial slowdown from the world's dominant refiner sends a signal through every corner of the global silver market. Almost nobody noticed this at first, because early data actually looked mixed. Some analysts pointed out that China's total silver exports in 2025 had reached a 16-year high, and that the new rules didn't include a hard export quota, which led a few voices to argue the restrictions were being overblown. But here's where everything changes. While the world was debating how strict the export rules actually were on paper, China's own behavior inside the market told a much louder story. In the first quarter of 2026, China's silver imports didn't just rise, they exploded. The country brought in roughly 1,126 tons of silver in just 3 months, the highest first quarter total on record. In March alone, imports jumped 78% from the previous month, hitting around 836 tons, more than double the country's previous all-time monthly high. To put that in perspective, that single month's import stood 173% above China's 10-year average for that time of year. This wasn't a gradual shift. It was a sudden, aggressive grab for physical metal. Now here's the part most people miss. A country doesn't flip from being a net exporter of over 5,000 tons of silver in a single year to suddenly hoarding it unless something significant is driving that decision. So what's actually behind China's silver appetite? It comes down to two powerful forces hitting at exactly the same time. And understanding both is the key to understanding everything else in this story. The first force is industrial demand, and this is where the story becomes personal for almost everyone watching, whether you realize it or not. China builds more solar panels than any other country on Earth, and silver is a critical ingredient in how those panels convert sunlight into electricity. There's currently no cheap, scalable substitute that performs as well. The solar industry alone is on pace to install a record amount of new capacity this year, consuming well over 100 million ounces of silver annually just for that one application. Layer on top of that the explosive growth of electric vehicles, which use meaningfully more silver per vehicle than traditional gasoline cars because of their complex electronics, and then add a newer, less obvious source of demand, artificial intelligence data centers, which rely heavily on silver for its unmatched electrical conductivity and high-performance components. Every new AI server rack quietly needs silver to function. None of these industries are shrinking. All of them are growing at the same time. And here's a detail that rarely makes headlines but matters enormously. Unlike gold, silver has limited substitutes in many high-performance applications, although manufacturers are actively working to reduce the amount of silver they use. That distinction matters. Technology can reduce silver intensity over time, but redesigning a product and moving an entire manufacturing process to a different material doesn't happen overnight. Think about what that means for an ordinary family. Every solar panel installed on a rooftop, every electric vehicle sold, every new data center built to power the apps on your phone, all of it is quietly pulling from the same limited pool of physical silver. This isn't a story about wealthy investors speculating on a chart. It's a story about industries that regular people rely on every single day, competing for a metal that isn't easy to simply produce more of. The second force is strategic stockpiling, and this is the part that should make investors sit up. China has increasingly treated silver the way it treats other critical materials like rare earth elements, tungsten, and antimony, as a strategic resource worth controlling, not just a commodity to trade freely. By tightening exports and simultaneously buying up silver on the open market, China is positioning itself to secure supply for its own industries first, while gaining significant leverage over the rest of the world's access to a metal that modern technology increasingly can't function without. Consider how this played out just last year, when a massive wave of physical silver buying tied to India's festival season put so much strain on the London bullion market that the London Exchange came dangerously close to running short of deliverable metal. In response, Chinese exchanges reportedly stepped in to help stabilize London's inventories, only to then find their own domestic reserves stretched thin as a result. That's not a coincidence. It's a preview of exactly the kind of interconnected fragility now playing out on a much larger scale. When physical demand spikes anywhere in the world, it doesn't stay contained. It pulls metal from wherever it can be found. And increasingly, that means pulling from a pool that keeps getting smaller. History tells a very different story than what most people assume about how commodity markets usually work. Normally, when a country wants more of a resource, it simply buys more on the open market and prices adjust smoothly. But this tiny detail changes everything. Silver's available, deliverable supply on major exchanges was already shrinking before China's buying spree even began. Registered silver inventories on COMEX, the amount actually available for delivery against futures contracts in the United States, had already fallen roughly 75% since 2020, even before this year's Chinese import surge accelerated the drain. China wasn't creating a shortage out of nothing. It was pouring gasoline on a fire that had already been quietly burning for years. So how tight has this actually gotten? Between September 2025 and April 2026, registered COMEX silver inventories fell by roughly 61%, dropping from about 201 million ounces to just under 80 million ounces. That collapse happened in a matter of months, not years. Meanwhile, industry analysts have pointed to a coverage ratio, essentially how much physical silver is available compared to the number of futures contracts that could theoretically demand delivery, sitting at around 13%. In plain English, that means if even a modest share of contract holders suddenly wanted their silver delivered instead of settled in cash, the exchange could face real difficulty meeting those obligations. Almost nobody noticed this happening in real time because much of the silver market is traded through futures contracts and other financial instruments rather than through the immediate movement of physical metal. That distinction matters. A futures contract can represent an agreement to buy or sell silver at a later date, while the physical market depends on actual bars being available for delivery. When demand for physical metal rises faster than readily available supply, the relationship between those two markets can become increasingly important. And that's where the story gets even more interesting. The tension between paper markets and physical markets has increasingly been reflected in regional price differences. Silver traded in Shanghai has at times commanded a significant premium over prices quoted in major Western markets, showing that Chinese buyers have been willing to pay more for physical metal than the headline futures price might suggest. That premium doesn't automatically prove that the world is running out of silver. But when physical silver consistently trades at a meaningful premium in one major market, as it can be an important signal that local demand and available supply are under pressure. And if that pressure continues while China keeps absorbing large amounts of silver, the question becomes much harder to ignore. How much physical metal will remain available to everyone else? But here's where everything changes again, because this isn't a story with a smooth, straight line. Silver's price action in 2026 has been genuinely wild. After China's export restrictions were first announced in late 2025, silver briefly surged above $84 an ounce before crashing more than 15% in a matter of days, as traders debated whether the restrictions were as serious as the headline suggested. Then, as China's actual import data started rolling in through the first quarter, confirming the scale of the buying spree, silver rocketed even higher, briefly trading above $100 an ounce in early 2026, a level that would have seemed unthinkable just a couple of years earlier. And then, almost as quickly, silver pulled back hard again, sliding to around $55 an ounce by mid-July amid broader turmoil in financial markets, before recovering back into the low to mid-60s by early August. On into that kind of whiplash, a run past $100, a crash back toward $55, and a bounce toward $63 is exactly the kind of price action that scares away short-term traders and confuses casual investors. But here's the reality check nobody wants to hear. None of that volatility changes the underlying supply story. Solar panels still need silver. Data centers still need silver. Electric vehicles still need silver, and China is still buying. This is where we need to talk about why ordinary people should care about a metal. Most of them will never personally trade. If you're a retiree, silver-heavy funds in your portfolio have likely felt every one of these wild swings, which can be unsettling if you don't understand what's driving them. If you're a parent trying to plan for your children's future, the same industries pulling silver out of the ground and out of vaults, solar energy, electric vehicles, advanced electronics, are the industries that are going to define the job market and cost of living your kids grow up with. If you're a young professional just starting to invest, this is a live example of how a decision made by a single government on the other side of the world can move a market you might already have exposure to, whether through a retirement account, an ETF, or physical bars sitting in a safe. And if you're a worker in an industry connected to manufacturing, energy, or electronics, this story hits even closer to home. Companies that rely on a steady, predictable supply of silver for their products are now navigating a world where that supply is less certain and considerably more expensive than it was just 2 years ago. That can mean higher production costs, which can eventually show up in the price of everything from appliances to electric vehicles to the electronics in your pocket. This isn't an abstract commodity story happening far away. It's quietly built into the price tags ordinary families will see on store shelves over the next few years. Now let's talk about the historical parallel that veteran commodity traders keep bringing up. Silver has a well-known history of moving in exaggerated swings compared to gold, rising faster during bull markets and falling harder during corrections, partly because its market is smaller and more thinly traded. One commonly watched measure of this relationship is the gold to silver ratio, which tells you how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold. Historically, that ratio has averaged somewhere around 60 to 70 to 1. Earlier this year, amid extreme fear and uncertainty, it spiked to an unusually stretched level near 105 to 1, meaning silver was historically cheap relative to gold. As silver's supply story intensified through the year, that ratio compressed sharply, falling to somewhere between 57 and 61 to 1 by April, moving below its long-term historical average for the first time in a while. What does that compression actually tell us? Historically, when the gold-silver ratio falls that sharply, it's often a sign that silver is being recognized again, not just as an industrial input, but as a monetary and investment asset in its own right, catching up after a long stretch of being treated as gold's neglected little sibling. Some analysts believe that's exactly what's happening now. Silver stepping into a dual identity needed by factories and desired by savers. At the exact same time, global supply is tightening. Here's a hidden connection that ties this whole story together. China's silver strategy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of a broader pattern the country has followed with other critical materials in recent years, tightening its grip on rare earth elements, tungsten and antimony, in ways that gave it significant leverage in trade negotiations and global supply chains. Silver appears to be the latest material added to that playbook. And unlike some of those other materials, silver sits at the unusual intersection of being both an industrial necessity for the technologies of the future and a monetary metal that individual investors around the world can buy in the form of coins and bars. That dual role is part of what makes this story so much bigger than a typical commodity supply squeeze. It's worth pausing here on a mini cliffhanger that a lot of coverage of this story glosses over. Not every analyst agrees on how serious China's restrictions really are. Some point out that China's total silver exports in 2025 actually hit a 16-year high, and that the new licensing framework doesn't include a hard export quota, meaning the country technically hasn't banned silver from leaving its borders. It's just made the process far more selective about who gets to move it and how much scrutiny they face. That's an important nuance, and it's why some more cautious voices argue the China is hoarding silver narrative might be somewhat overstated in parts of the financial media. The truth, as usual, probably sits somewhere in between. Real tightening dressed in bureaucratic language without a full-blown export ban. So what happens next? This is where we have to be honest about what's known and what's genuinely uncertain. Because nobody, not analysts, not traders, not China itself, can promise exactly how this unfolds. The World Silver Survey for 2026 projects the market will register its sixth consecutive annual supply deficit, with total demand once again outpacing total mine and recycled supply, even before accounting for how much of that available supply China chooses to keep for itself. Some forecasts put the projected shortfall at over 46 million ounces for this year alone, building on a multi-year cumulative deficit that some estimates now place above 800 million ounces since 2021, roughly equivalent to an entire year's worth of global mining output already consumed beyond what's been produced. If China's export licensing stays tight and its industrial and investment demand keeps climbing, Western markets like COMEX and the LBMA could continue facing pressure on their available inventories, which historically has preceded periods of sharp volatility and price spikes as buyers scramble for physical metal rather than paper contracts. If, on the other hand, China eases restrictions, or if a global economic slowdown cools industrial demand for solar panels and electric vehicles, some of this pressure could ease, and silver's price swings could calm down. Both paths are plausible. Nobody watching this video should treat either outcome as guaranteed. What we can say with more confidence is this: the structural forces behind this story, solar energy expansion, electric vehicle adoption, AI infrastructure build-out, and China's strategic control over refining and exports, aren't temporary headlines. They're multi-year trends that don't reverse overnight just because a price chart cools off for a few weeks. That's the difference between short-term noise and a genuine structural shift, and it's the distinction every investor watching silver right now needs to keep in mind. So let's come back to where we started. China is taking silver off the market, not through some dramatic headline-grabbing announcement, but quietly through licensing rules, record import numbers, and a fundamental shift in how the country treats a metal it used to sell freely. What happens next depends on decisions still being made inside Chinese ministries, inside solar and EV factories, and inside the vaults of exchanges in New York, London, and Shanghai that are all watching the same shrinking pool of physical metal. One thing is clear: silver isn't just a shiny alternative to gold anymore, it's become a genuine strategic resource, caught between the factories building tomorrow's technology and the savers looking to protect what they have today. Whoever understands that shift early, instead of reacting to it after the headlines catch up, is the one who ends up ahead. If you learned something new today, make sure to subscribe to Money Insights and like this video. More powerful financial insights are coming next.